A Quiet Place Day 1 is finally here, so let's talk about it. It's a prequel to 2018's A Quiet Place, and this movie shows the very first day that the blind aliens take over Earth and the ensuing miserable days. This is a spoiler-free review, so if you haven't seen the movie, you're safe. Living in a world where you can't make noise or you die is so brutal, man. I have so many questions. Like, I don't want to be gross, but imagine having to hold on to your gas for the rest of your life. Like, if you accidentally let one rip while you're sleeping, you're dead. I would be so pissed. But anyway, how is A Quiet Place Day 1? Well, I didn't see any trailers or anything before going in, so I figured that this movie would mostly focus on the event of the aliens invading Earth itself and the country's response to that. But that's not exactly what we got here, and I think it came out for the better. Instead of this movie turning into the typical disaster movie, it takes a much more personal approach, focusing on two specific characters and how they deal with what's going on. But don't get it twisted, this movie still feels large in scope. It has a budget of $67 million. That's insane for a horror movie, but this movie doesn't feel overproduced at all. The CGI and special effects in general all look great. It's a visually pleasing movie. But let's talk about the two main characters. The movie mostly follows Sam, who is a terminally ill cancer patient. She lives in a hospice in New York City, and her group takes a trip to the inner city to catch a puppet show. Sam only agrees to go because she wants to go get pizza at a restaurant she likes a lot. And of course, when they take the trip, that's when the aliens attack and shit starts to go south. This was the part of the movie where I expected it to just feel like a typical disaster movie, watching New York City slowly get destroyed, but that's not what happens at all. Sam gets knocked out right away and then wakes up in a shelter with a bunch of survivors who already know not to make noise. This just goes to show that this movie decided to take a much more personal approach to the story, which I really think worked out in its favor. Focusing this movie on Sam, who's already terminally ill, was a fascinating choice for me because her death approaching is already a guarantee. While the government is communicating messages to everyone saying, hey, head to the docks to escape on boats since the aliens can't swim, Sam's like, screw that, I just want to visit this pizza place before I die because she wasn't able to before the aliens attacked. The other main character of this movie is Eric. He sort of appears out of nowhere and accompanies Sam on her journey to get to the pizza place instead of escaping with everyone else. I'm not entirely sure why. Look, it's really hard to develop characters who aren't able to talk much, but I was a little confused about Eric's motivation. A funny thing I noticed about Eric is that when the invasion happens, he's wearing a suit and tie, but over the course of the movie, which is a couple of days, he never takes his tie off. Maybe it was an expensive tie, I don't know. So the movie just focuses on these two characters and their story, and it's really touching. For a $67 million horror movie that could have easily been a typical disaster movie, it feels very personal to writer-director Michael Cernowski. I personally felt like the weakest part of the movie is the second act, because at that point, the aliens are already in town and we're just sort of waiting for our protagonists to reach their destination. But the third act and ending was very well done and touching. It wraps up this movie in a really nice way. I've seen some people say this is the best movie in the Quiet Place franchise. I'd personally say I still prefer the first movie, but I can understand why this would be someone's favorite. I just felt like the first movie had an easier job. It followed a family, so like the movie didn't have to explain backstories extensively for us to be scared for them. We're scared for the dad in that movie because, well, he's a dad. We're scared for the mom because she's a mom. And we're scared for the kids because they're kids. And I also feel like the first movie had a better ticking clock formula with the mother being pregnant, because you sit there waiting for her water to break because you know that it will be almost impossible for her to give birth without making noise. The ticking clock in A Quiet Place Day 1 is the literal ticking clock on Sam's life, which I just felt like didn't raise the stakes as much. If anything, it kind of lowered them. It sounds horrible, but when Sam is being chased by the aliens, I was like, well, if they do get her, she didn't have that much time left anyway. That's just a minor gripe though, because overall, I really enjoyed A Quiet Place Day 1. I really enjoyed Sam's story and felt it was very moving. The movie was a good time and I recommend it to all horror fans. So, have you seen A Quiet Place Day 1? What'd you think of it? Let me know in the comments. That is all for today. I'm Jace of Jace Talks Media, and I hope all of you have a great day.